I don't. Oh, you gonna lead us in the pledge?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Jenny David. Here. Roger Mayhew.
Yes.
Charles Wiltie.
Here.
Craig Scott. Mark Serbrook.
Present.
Any additions or corrections? Anything, commissioners?
I'm good.
Public comment on agenda items only? Be on the phone. Appointments, discussion items, Gladwin County Agreement.
Okay, if you've got it up, I'll walk you through where the changes are and the impact they have. First, right on the very first page, under number 1, the agreement. Let me back up. The undersheriff and I met with Gladwin County, their jail administrator, their new undersheriff, and their equivalent to Carol Turner, who works in the jail, and went over this contract with them. This is virtually, I'll have one suggestion for you in here, but I don't think you're going to find anything that's alarming, but I think it's important that you know where these changes are. Very good meeting. Overall, Gladwin County is happy with the working relationship with Ogemaw County. They have, as we've experienced over the last year, they've learned a few things along the way, and that's will impact some of the language that's in the contract. But overall, they're pleased with how it's working. And generally speaking, as Mr. McGordy put it, they really like receiving our money. If we ever don't want to send them there, they're okay with that too. But right now, they're suggesting right there on the very first page that not a 1-year agreement, but they want to go at 18 months on a new agreement from October 1 through June 30th of 27. And then the big item right below that, they want to raise the rate from $30 per inmate per day to $32 per inmate per day. That would be about a 6% increase over what we're paying the current year. With our average population on fiscal year 25 is at 43 inmates. That would mean dollar-wise an increase of about $37,240 over what we budgeted for this year. That's still under what I would just in quotes put the going rate, which is roughly $35 in other counties. So this is still a much more favorable number versus the $80+ we were paying our last full year here. Next item, and this one gets a little complex on page 2, toward the bottom. Well, the first thing is they want to move the medical cost up to number 4 from number 8 or wherever it was, just to keep it all together. So that's fine. That's just a movement of the text. Item E, though, additional billing. Now, we've talked over this last year about billing inmates who we incarcerate. I think the statute said we can bill up to $60 per day for each inmate. I think that was the number. We hadn't been billing that much. Gladwin County is proposing to take over that function from us. You know, put an asterisk there and come back to it. But what they're proposing with the $32 per inmate per day of doing that billing and taking in any revenue that comes in from it, and they would bill at $10 per day, which again puts them well under the statutory requirement. Now, how does that compare to what we do? Well, we haven't really been doing this. Frankly, I think we've got maybe $5,000 of revenue that we've taken in the last year. We're not aggressively pursuing anything. In talking with the Gladwin representatives, the national average of recovery when you bill an inmate out is about 1%. They're doing 18% at their county, so they're doing significantly better even than the national average. And obviously, if we're not doing very much, they're doing better than we are. So what is the impact of this? Well, if we want to continue to do this, they would like the per inmate per day rate to be $35 and not $32, because in effect, they're losing that revenue, and we would in effect be taking in that revenue. But how does that compare? Well, even in our best year, and that was fiscal year 2018, we collected $30,716. If we do the $35 a day rate for our inmates, again, based on 43 inmates per year, that's going to add $47,085 to the previous number I gave you. So that would be even more than the 6% increase on top of this. Weighing this, I don't think we could ever expect to see 30,000 anywhere near that arena. If we were to do it, they would have to dedicate somebody at the jail to doing this, to doing the bill collection. And as we've been told, this just isn't something that, first of all, anybody who's there has really any experience. So there's going to be a learning curve to do it. And they're going to have to dedicate somebody, some of our staff, to doing it. I know Breck has offered to do some things, but ultimately all of that has to start at the jail. And it's just one more thing to do. To me, it seems like a deal. Go with the 32, let Gladwin do it. They're already set up. They're getting all the information they need. We'll let them do it. And if they collect, more than $45,000 a year, great, good for them. But that's, again, something else that'll go back into the jail where our inmates are going. So that's my suggestion, is that we do that. I'm not saying that we're not capable, but it's just one more thing. If we've got, 7 people assigned to the jail, let's let them work more on the jail component and the inmates rather than the clerical component of doing that billing. Page 3, there's a lot of language in here that gets to the medical transportation and custody transfer. We've got some differences here that while there are increases over what we've got in our current contract, I think the numbers in here you'll find to be reasonable. The first change is right at the first paragraph, is that the Gladwin County will give Ogemaw County a maximum of 2 hours notification to make arrangements to take custody of somebody who maybe has to go to a hospital or have some other medical transport that's got to go on. After that 2 hours, they're proposing in this contract to bill us for 2 deputies at a cost of $55 per hour. I should clarify, to say officers, whoever they assign, $55 per for the first 12 hours. If we go beyond 12 hours, and we've had at least one that I know of that did, they're proposing a $70 per hour per officer fee. So let's back that up for a second. So the first 2 hours, right now we've got a 4-hour agreement. If they're going to take somebody for a medical appointment, it's 4 hours, but they charge us a rate of $48.50 to do that, and it's taken care of. Well, they're saying 2 hours, but after the 2 hours, we're going to need the 55 rate. Now, how does that compare to our rates for the coming fiscal year with the contract that we just negotiated? If we were to assign a deputy, which is what we've had to do, we're looking at, just with pay and benefits, at $50.08 an hour. Now, this assumes the deputy is taking the family health insurance and they're at the top of the pay rate and so on. But 50.08, they're only suggesting 55 for that first 12 hours. Again, I think very reasonable, particularly when you add in the other costs, factoring in the vehicle, the gas, everything else that goes into it. That's a reasonable number. And they're suggesting, I think, at 70, and this is my interpretation of it, after 12 hours, they're probably paying somebody overtime by that point. So again, not really an unreasonable number to go with. Now, Paul's here if you've got some specific questions about how this has worked for us. I do know it's a hassle when they've got to have somebody who's out of the jail and we've got to have somebody assigned. Yeah, that is a hassle. And I know they've done their best to make sure that we get somebody to cover that. But this looks to me to be a pretty good option from a fiscal standpoint for those few cases that we're going to get. You can underscore that we're going to get a couple of these a year. This appears to be a pretty reasonable request on the cost. The only other change on here is going to be on page 4, and that's the prison transportation. And this is something we've talked about at MTA. This is that subject area with we were talking about, gosh, I think the guy's name. When an inmate is sentenced, they go to court. Okay, your sentence is 3 to 5 years or whatever. That inmate is then transported to the state prison system. What Gladwin is proposing is if they do that, they would bill us at the $55 per officer rate to transport that inmate. Again, I think this works to the county's advantage. It's not to say our people can't do it. But if Gladwin is doing it, again, a reasonable rate, and they're probably going anyway, so they're probably not assigning anybody new. If they've got to take somebody to a state prison, let's say Jackson, and we've got one that's going there too, yeah, throw them in the van and let's do that all at once. But that would be the rate. Again, I think this gives our sheriff's office the option. We don't have anybody available. They're willing to do it. Smooth transition. So that's the difference or the changes that they've asked for. I'm willing to field any questions, but I do want to just, again, emphasize my recommendation that we take Gladwin up on their billing structure where they would bill the inmate the $10 and keep that revenue.
Paul, can you come up? Guess what I'm gonna say, chair.
Stand.
No chair?
Chair.
Guess I'll
You take this phone call, I'll grab one. I don't like that one anyways.
Oh, thank you.
You concur that the meeting went well?
I did. I thought it was a productive meeting. It was a good conversation. So, made a lot of valid points.
Are you satisfied with our services?
We've gotten through it, yes. I mean, they've worked with us very well, and there's hiccups. It's not a fun job, especially logistics and that type of stuff, but overall, Gladwin has been very, very easy to work with, their personnel. I know the new undersheriff Cuddy very years of working with him, so I anticipate a smooth transition on that front.
Was there a new undersheriff?
Yeah. So the old one just is retired, so under Sheriff Cuddy has taken over underneath Sheriff Shea. So like I said, I've worked for years and I expect a smooth transition. But I've been happy with, the numbers are down right now. We've had some experience here in the last few months of them being maxed out and moving on. I think we've learned from that experience and some of the other charges. We're looking at using, again, the contract with Gladwin primary and Aranac is secondary because Aranac is right in the same cost center as Gladwin. So that would see, some savings on that front moving forward with inmates, depending on where inmate numbers go. So I concur with what Tim said. It was a good meeting. I think this is a good contract. We did talk about housing. This is some of what they're talking about is what we talked about in LE a couple of months ago that I was looking at their processes. One thing I guess I'll add to what he's talking about with that whole thing they have set up there and tote this 17 to 18%. They were part of a pilot program with this collection agency and what they set up with a Southwest county that went through some litigation and what they've established. And this, I'm telling you, this gal that comes up, she's smart as a whip and she runs this aspect of their county. And she goes through these different steps and she ends up collecting money at this much higher rate. So for us to get a deal, we can always go back a couple of years from now as we continue to evaluate how this goes. But I think for now, we've got 6 personnel now working. We're going to get in the 7 total, get that all squared away and being able to see how it functions with the 7 allocated positions, I think is crucial at this point. So I think it's a good contract.
Comments?
Go with that plan of Gladwin and Aranac, I think.
Commissioner Scott?
Well, I hate to even, hold them at $10. They can charge 60, let them charge it. I don't care. We're not doing it, so let them do it. I mean, but I'd much rather have the inmate pay than we pay more money for the inmate. Not my fault he's there. So, I mean, I don't want to go up to 35. Let them bill it, pay for it. But
If I
if
could
they
add,
get to a point where they think they can go to $20, I don't want them to have to come back and ask to increase it. Go ahead and do it.
I think we'll see some health savings too. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, Commissioner, but
All right.
I think with what we paid and I think using what they have established over there. I don't think we'll see the same level as this first year and the second year of what we see in health, because that's part of what they collect. So I budgeted as I'm working through the budget process, and Tim and I will talk about it, but just for point of conversation.
Well, I just think if they get to where they feel more comfortable, if their 18% goes to 36% or whatever, and they want to increase it $5, and in 27, when we got to renegotiate, if they're bringing in good money, then maybe it keeps our number down.
We could do that, rather than saying that $10, we'll say each.
Oh, because
sentence,
Statutory maximum.
Good point.
just they will
Just
bill
bill 'em.
correctly for each day and just not mention a dollar amount, and then you've open that door for them to do what they need to do on their end.
I'm good with that.
Commissioner Wiltie.
Yeah, Commissioner Scott, I think brought up a good point there. That's good call. Well, I definitely know this transition has not been easy. There's been a lot of challenges, and I appreciate the sheriff's hard work on this. Right out of the gates there in October, we said we wanted to be transparent, be consistent, and we had meetings every 2 weeks for a long time, and we were trying to do as best as we could to help support it. And so thank you again for that. So I appreciate it. I have a question for you. I haven't seen the sheriff in a long time. Is everything all right? I can't even tell you the last time I seen him.
He's good. He was on vacation the end of June, so that played a big factor in why we haven't seen him here in the tail end of June especially, so. Everything else is,
He made it for negotiations.
yeah, just
He was
prior
here
to
a
that.
couple of times, yeah.
And then he had a vacation at the end of June, and we kind of unplugged him to get his stress level down, so.
Okay.
As we all try to do when we get a chance to vacation, so.
Thanks.
Commissioner Serbrook.
I am very happy with what we have here. I think it's good. Even the $55 for, I think it's more than fair. So I am happy with this proposed contract.
Commissioner Mayhew.
The question I have is, okay, they collect $10. If they don't collect that, these are gonna be our residents, correct?
Correct.
If they don't pay, they're gonna call, tell you to go pick them up?
No.
No, they have, part of this process that they have is a whole collection settlement slash, I think could even put them in contact with you for garnishments type of thing. They have this system set up. and running.
Okay, well,
So
that's
they'll-
my question, because if you gotta go pick them up and then we have them put back in there, we get to pay again.
Well, the 32 per day, but they don't go back in because they haven't necessarily paid their bill. And what they told is that 17% is they have a number of different ways that they attack that debt when it does get occurred.
Okay.
So
That was my question, if it's gonna cost us money to collect that debt.
normally when we see that, it's when they don't take care of fines and costs, or they don't comply with probation. We don't see housing costs or that type of stuff generating your benchmark.
Well, I know we don't collect it and there's a reason, because they won't.
Correct.
I think the only way that would happen would be if they did give them a warrant, picked them up and gave them jail time in lieu of.
Right, and again, that would be a
Paying.
court function type of thing. The outstanding debt would be a civil collection
Yeah.
type. So let's say you've satisfied everything else, but you owe X number of dollars in housing costs. Well, now that's civil collection. As opposed, it's not part of the fines and costs.
It's like if you didn't pay your credit, it's like if you didn't pay your credit card bill. They can sue you civilly and then attach you, garnish your wages, so
Eventually, they can issue a warrant and come and get you. They can't?
civil,
Not for the debt
not for the
itself.
debt.
Okay.
It would have to be tied into fines and costs or probation violations and that type of thing.
That's, I just wanna, you know what I mean, I know that 90% of them would ain't gonna pay because they don't have it. If they had it, they wouldn't be there in the first place.
That's the challenge across the board as far as getting collections
I
on the
just don't wanna
different
be
fees.
tied into us losing money because they're making money.
No, we're talking about, I think, two different things. The recidivism, probation violations, not complying with fines and costs. that's court ordered. So if they don't do that, then the judge says, bring them back, and that's where we incur more costs. I walk out the door, met all my other obligations, but I owe $50. Gladwin's gonna come after me for that $50, whether it's settlement, collection agency, garnishment. And I use a simple term, $50, but hopefully that helps with the conversation.
Okay.
So, good question.
About the Gladwin, the cost of Gladwin's officers. You guys do try to be as, I'm sure there is emergent situations that do occur, but you guys do try to be available as much as possible, correct? So we're not charged this $50 and $70?
Yeah, so part of the discussion that we had was that they're gonna contact us earlier because there was the 4 hours, so usually they were waiting the 2 hours. When they have a situation where one of our inmates goes, we're gonna be notified immediately, which is gonna start that 2 hour. In those circumstances, we try to see, okay, what are our staffing levels? What is Gladwin staffing levels? And try to come up with coverages to sit at the hospital or whatever the scenario may be. If we've got personnel, like we can get our part-timers to come in on call to cover some of this, then we utilize their functions. If we have correction officers that are willing to do overtime, we use that. Those are all just different of the logistics. It's shortening it up. Because what they found is because of the staffing challenges on both sides, that there was a couple incidents, they were going over that 4 hour mark. And they didn't start charging us until after 2 or 3 incidents. So it's frequent enough that they needed to, one, address it. And then 2, like that major one that happened over that one holiday, we had to scramble because they just could not staff it. And we got it done working together, but it was definitely a challenge.
So you guys are going to attempt to cover, even though this.
You know, they call and we look at where we're at with staffing, what time of the day. You know, if it's during the day and if we have transport officers or a part-timer available, we could send them down to cover. Doctor's appointments are scheduled.
I agree with this contract, especially since you agree with it, but is there anything that you would counter here? I mean, because this is up for negotiation, correct? Is there anything?
There isn't anything that I would really, that was brought up by any of the conversations. I mean, the only real contention is if they can't get a ride, meaning an Ogemaw County resident, and they bond out or get out of jail, if all else fails, Gladwin calls us and we're on the hook to go and get them, bring them back up here to facilitate type of things.
That's if they're released.
That's if they're released, bonded out. If all avenues fail, it's in the contract.
Where's that at? Must not be a change. It must have been in there because it wasn't highlighted.
Once they were out, we didn't have any responsibility for them.
No, it was in the first contract. I've seen it in other municipalities. And they deal with that if it's somewhere else. And they,
Page 4, it's that paragraph A above that red section.
That verbiage is kind of tricky. That looks like court proceedings.
They provide transportation of prisoners to and from court proceedings as a means for the released prisoners return to Ogemaw County if said prisoner upon release cannot obtain transportation.
That should be their own responsibility.
yeah, you'd like to put that again on the inmate type of thing. And it's only happened a couple of times. Most of the time they work and they set them out in the lobby and spend several hours trying to find a ride. But we've had a couple of inmates that couldn't facilitate a ride to Gladwin. And they called and said, come get him. We brought them up, put them in our lobby, and
What time of day do they let them out?
all different times of the day. It depends.
Even at night?
Even at night, you could come at 2 o'clock in the morning if you all suddenly came one at the casino and bought $500 to bond me out. You could come down there and bond me out.
Oh, no. I thought this was when they're done with we're talking when they're done with their sentence.
Anytime they're released, when they're released under any circumstances.
Oh,
I agree. I think they should, I think they should find their own ride. I do.
I do too.
They're released. They're free.
Yeah.
We can talk to
I don't know how often that happens. even.
Only been a couple times. It happens. I know, it happens enough that
That could be overtime,
it
that,
becomes a contention that, we gotta go down there and get this person and bring up.
Well, at that point, he's not a risk. I mean, he's not in cuffs anymore, right? He's
Been
done with.
released.
He's not.
They just don't want him in their county, that's all.
Well, yeah, I don't
I
blame
don't blame them,
I don't blame him, yeah.
you know?
Comment.
go ahead.
So then at that point in time, when he's released, now we're adding a liability for him to be in a vehicle or her to be in a vehicle. What if something would happen, so I agree. I think it's.
I see their point too. Get them out.
I do.
Well, I think this was a common,
It's a,
when Genesee County was sending inmates up here, that was.
Yes,
In the contract, they had to come get them?
yes.
I thought we gave them a token or something.
to the bus.
They can,
Yeah.
as long as they came, as long as somebody got them out of Ogemaw County, we were happy.
But
As
then-
long as they left, we don't care how they left, as long as they left.
Yeah, but we gave them tokens or something for bus rides when I first came on. I remember that.
They,
I don't remember what bus.
All of the standing.
Indian Trails, Standish,
Spanish and put them on a bus.
yep.
Yeah, that's what,
Mhm.
That's, I believe, again, I wasn't here, but that's the
Right.
stories that I heard that.
right. Because the bus doesn't come through West Branch, but it goes up through
So
23.
It was facilitated.
Ask on that.
Yeah,
I would.
talk to the SARS and see if we can.
And I see if we want out of it, it just takes it's written notice.
Right.
So
Tim, for clarification, June 30th is Gladwin's fiscal year.
That's what I got the impression of when they were talking to us. I haven't gone back to look at it.
Double check that, because I remember we were talking about trying to line this up with fiscal years, and when you said June 30th, I double looked and said, wait a minute.
I might be able to tell you.
I mean, if they're October, we should look at,
It's,
this is October 1st, 2025 through June 30th of 2027.
right.
right, so how does that, because the discussion is to align the dates with fiscal
Yeah.
years.
Yeah, it might be their fiscal year.
So they could be like the city of West Branch will start July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would imagine that's probably the reason.
All right, thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah. Thank you.
West Branch Pro City School Resource Deputy Agreement.
Nope, you're gonna be right back up here.
Yeah, you might as well stay.
I guess, what was I thinking?
I was gonna take advantage of it.
So backing up to that duration, their fiscal year starts October 1 too. So let's just confirm with Matt, maybe he just has a misunderstanding.
Well, maybe they just want some time to renegotiate.
Maybe they thought we were gonna come back with a counter.
Oh,
We'll check that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
date.
You have the floor, Paul. I see that they 2025 through 2028, the amount there.
Now, Tim and I sat down with West Branch Real City, the superintendent there, and we discussed how everything went, operations and that type of thing. I did some budgetary numbers with the raises for personnel and with some increased gas costs. So we settled on a number of 85,000 as the base contract price with West Branch Rose City. So that would be 85 the base to cover operations, and then like we've been doing, billing for overtime.
Tim, anything to add to that?
My only question for the board is, do you want to do a 3-year agreement or would you prefer doing a 1-year agreement, especially knowing we're going to be back at the bargaining table here momentarily?
And we did discuss with the board of having a reopener, I believe we did. So we're, depending on how the contract went, we would talk about it for next fiscal year.
What was the cost last year?
75.
So it went from 75 to 85?
And again, the primary reason when I factored in, when I started doing the budget work, was the raise and then some increased gas costs. So we've been doing fairly well in those budgets, aside from the DB situation with the one, but 85, I believe, is a reasonable price for the services, and it gets us through operational costs.
So what situation? The DB? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I don't want to define.
Yes.
It's-
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, it's okay. It just took me a minute. Commissioner Wiltie.
Um. I'm not sure if I like the 3-year lockdown. I think I'd like to just do 1 year, especially since we're gonna go back into contract talks, and I'd like to see 1 year.
Commissioner Scott.
The 1 year would be fine with me. Is the school still open in Rose City?
One of them.
The elementary school is still open? Okay. I didn't know if it was or not.
Nothing else?
No, I don't believe there was. Now, the overtime. Now, what's in here about games and stuff like that? Now, this flex schedule, this has been an ongoing thing, about having games. The flex schedule was there so you could start later on game day and then work the games, and that didn't happen. It was 14-hour days and things like that. So, and then that means there's a block of hours even without school and without a game. Oh, we saw it right on the time sheets. I mean, I don't have them right in front of me.
I'm trying to understand what you're saying. They are invoiced for.
Yeah, but I mean, well, it's just, if we got a whole paragraph on flex schedule. And it's there so that games at night can be covered by flexing the schedule during the day.
Ultimately, it's up on the school. If they want that school coverage and the game coverage, they're gonna pay the overtime for the game coverage because they're there for the 8 hours, 8.5 hours, because they want them there when they arrive and when they leave. So a lot of days they have a half hour built into what they want. They can save money anytime they want by saying, we'll come up with something different, or we'll ask you to flex your schedule, knowing that there will be different times where this deputy would be at school or functions and that type of thing. But ultimately, we leave that back on the school, that the 85, and we don't dictate the flex schedule. Because ultimately they want the deputy coverage. We're providing the service, so they schedule. And if we get it where they get too much money in overtime, well, then you need to take a look at that, but we put the effort in. We are now invoicing as part of the quarterly invoices, first and second.
The county's not paying for any of that overtime.
Nope, it's invoice now.
And they're no longer getting flex times or
Count.
comp time, that's what I meant. So. That kind of fixes that.
Well, I
problem.
don't know. I'm reading this flex schedule and it says it's determined by the sheriff, so.
Well, the sheriff defers to the school because they are operational with the school. So I mean, ultimately, the sheriff could come and say, all right, we're cutting you back, but that's not been done as far as we're only gonna force you 8 hours. You use them wherever you can. It is now the understanding that you want these coverages, anything over that 8 hours a day is considered overtime and invoiced.
Tim, do you have anything?
Well, I think one of the reasons you're seeing that written that way, about at the direction of the sheriff, that's consistent with the union contract that we're still obligated to operate under.
Yeah.
So that's why I think you see it worded that way. But what Paul said is exactly right. It's come down to, if the school wants the extra hours, here's your invoice. And I don't think they've balked at that. I think they've been fine with it.
Most schools have not gotten any real negative feedback. We've talked about it a little bit, and we said right during the contract negotiations, if it comes to you're starting to see an increase, you might have to think about your hours, but they were on board with the discussion.
Commissioner Serbrook.
As long as they're paying any overtime. And the way I read that paragraph, Craig, and I may be wrong, but where it says it's determined to exist by the sheriff, to me, that is my interpretation is only for the temporary reassignment during the period of law enforcement emergency to exist as determined by the sheriff.
Okay.
Because there's a period at the end of the flex schedule for that day, period. And then the next one is school resource deputy may be temporarily reassigned only during the period of a law enforcement emergency as such may be determined to exist by the sheriff. So it gives him the opportunity to pull that individual out of the schools if there's an emergency that needs to be handled and they don't have enough staff. Might just have school
Yeah,
resources.
that's put in there in other places too.
Does that 85,000 cover benefits, everything for that one individual?
It would, I did quick math on this, just as a kind of a round number, I'm figuring the school, the officers are working 2,080 hours a year for the full year. We take the 9 months plus about a week, that comes out to 1,600 hours. You multiply that by that 5008 figure I presented earlier, which is the max on the wage benefit. That's just over 80,000. We wanted to address things like fuel, wear and tear in the vehicle equipment and so on. Yeah, I think we could easily show where that extra 5,000 is going to cover that cost. So I think it's a very fair number. I don't think we're not getting any surplus out of it, but at the same time, it's fair to the school.
And I would like to see a 1 year agreement.
Pardon me?
I would like to see just a 1 year
Oh,
contract.
absolutely. Commissioner Mayhew?
For 1 year.
I agree with
Gotta
1 year too.
negotiate, there ain't no sense in.
With 80,000, that with just the benefit package and wages, that doesn't leave a lot of extra for overtime, for gas, for wear and tear.
We're not
We
paying.
wouldn't pay the overtime.
Well, not us. I said that 85,000, I'm talking about what the school's
Mhm.
paying for that individual. We're not paying. I'm talking about the 85 that's designated from the school.
Right.
That doesn't leave them a lot of $5,000 doesn't leave a lot of overtime and
That's not,
wear and
They're
tear.
paying us the 85 though. Anything over and above that's gonna be on them to put in their budget.
Well, whatever they're writing, I contributed to that too.
Well, I understand. We want to make sure what they're paying us is gonna cover that individual and everything that comes with that individual is what I'm saying. So if there is a bunch of overtime, that 85,000 is not going to cover it.
For
We're gonna have to keep an eye on that.
conversation, the 85 is the base rate, so that will be 85,000. Any overage will be over 85,000,
They'll be charged to them.
over
Mhm.
85,000. Just, that's the way it's been done with the 75,000 and continue to be done, so they'll pay 85,000 for the school year.
Yep.
For coverage, for the
Minimum.
basic contract, and then any of the overtime will be invoiced. That overtime line will be coincide with the invoice and additional to 85,000.
Okay, you see my point now, right?
I do.
Okay, thanks, Paul.
I hope this is
Questions?
fine too.
One other thing, so we should continue this then with Whittemore and now Whittemore. This is our other contract, so this will transfer
Whittemore Prescott.
into Whittemore, so we can bring that to their table and 1 year contract from what I'm hearing with Whittemore. Usually this goes across the board now, but we've established a baseline, so if
Right.
that's what the understanding is, I'll open up with Whittemore.
thank you.
The standards opioid settlement participation agreement.
So I think everybody on this board has seen one or two of these in your terms. The national group that's negotiating these settlements on behalf of the counties has reached an agreement with Sandoz. And you see the participation agreement on that, and it's exactly the same thing that we've seen for all the others. In this case, Sandoz has agreed to formula that would have a one-time payment for Ogemaw County that would be just over $211,000. They would like our commitment before the end of the month. I don't see a downside to this at all. Once this is all settled in, we'll probably see that come into our possession here yet this year.
Comments, Commissioner Wiltse, you're on that board.
Yeah, chairing the board, I mean, I think this is good. I mean, we do know that there are still some outstanding debts that sadly could never get to us. So I think when we do have the opportunity, we need to accept it, try to get the money in the bank and move on.
Commissioner Serbrook?
I agree. Good thing is I read the Purdue Pharma. They have a second proposed settlement in the works, so hopefully that'll come about. So that'll be a big chunk of change.
Big one.
Take it when we get it.
Commissioner Scott?
I'm gonna go along with these guys. I mean, this, 35-page agreement. With a whole bunch of lawyers. Oh, boy.
Our legal team has looked at this?
It's a different legal team on this. You can see the guy, I can't think of his name. He's actually been to a couple of, they're on Zoom for a couple of these meetings. And yes, they're actually the ones who've recommended that we approve it.
Commissioner Mayhew?
I know nothing about it. It's money we got, we can't do nothing with.
Okay, animal control expenditure trend.
Yeah, I had on your iPads 7 years of 990 forms for the Ray shelter.
I printed it out.
I don't think the 2024 forms have been loaded yet, but the 2023, I think it's to the crux of what we were talking about at our last meeting. Right on that first page, you get a breakdown of what contributions, what revenues that they've received in this one particular year. In the current year of 2023, contributions and grants totaled just over 194,500. This is before there was any contract with the county. Yes, we were bringing animals there, but remember our contribution was about $7,000. So if that's included in that amount, it might be in that service on the next line. I don't know. I didn't prepare this. But either way, we could say that they do, or at least in that particular year, did have significant funds coming from other sources.
I think the interesting page would be page 16 out of 33, where it shows calendar year 2019, 20, 21, 22, 23, kind of give you a historical background. Actually, it starts on page. Figured out.
All I have is the revenues and expenditures. I guess what page, what do you, the fiscal year 18 to fiscal
Oh, yeah,
25?
you'll need to get out of the board folder.
Yeah.
And toward the bottom, after you see all the dates, there's one that says,
Click on 23.
says Animal Shelter 990s.
Oh, there it is. Okay, go to where?
Part 3. Down, scroll down. I'm trying to figure out what page it is. 15 or 6. Yeah, I believe it's 15. It gives you the historical, starts out with section 8 public support. Well, it gives you 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23.
2023 is the 991 that you want to look at.
Yeah, but this one gives you the historical. This is what I'm looking at.
Okay,
So, yeah. So that's the historical. Right?
And if you went back to the 2018 990, you
Yeah.
get even more.
Right. But I mean, it shows you how much they're in, what their public support, how it's fluctuated.
what page are you on, Commissioner Serbrook?
It would be
15 out of 33.
16, actually. 16 to 33.
I guess, Tim, what did you notice by seeing all of this?
Well, first of all, you can see here, there's pretty decent upward trend in terms of the revenue flow, but I was really interested, focused on the 2023 numbers because obviously it's the most recent number that they were reporting. And there was a conversation at our last meeting about just what percentage of their total budget is the county contract bringing in. So you could see they were bringing in between their contributions and then the fees for service. They were actually collecting over 261,000 before they had a contract with the county. So the contract with the county roughly doubled that? Is that right?
Doubled it.
I know.
Went to 27, you're looking at 2023, what year are you looking at? Because there's a total column there and then there's,
He's looking at
We're at 180.
23.
Yeah, 23, you'll see that line 6, which is the total of lines 1 through 5. That's the two categories of revenue they had, where they were at 261,778. Our contract, by the time we signed it, we were at 180,000 a year. Now, this is the 2023 numbers, obviously. This isn't 2025 or even 2024. And I'm going to assume, though, based on this trend, that it continued, and it's all I can do when I see the 2024 990.
I looked at these revenues and expenditures in the single sheet.
And that's our budget.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Paul, you were gonna have some conversation with them, did you have an opportunity to?
I've had a conversation with the animal control officer based on the last meeting that I attended, and the questions were brought up, and we made arrangements to attend their board meeting coming up this month so that we can sit down. This is time for the quarterly report also, so we'll all be in conjunction with the quarterly report, polishing that up and working together, so that's kind of where I'm at with that. Animal control officer was on board with the questions and kind of the discussion that needs to happen. He's working well with the shelter, and we'll attend their board meeting and talk to their board members. Then bring that information back. So that's where I'm at. I haven't had a chance to look at the 990, so.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Comments, Commissioner Serbrook, anything? Commissioner Mayhew?
The money that the millage that would come in, that also pays for the dog catcher, all his stuff, and the dog pound. It's not just the dog pound getting all the money, we got the dog catcher, we gave him a raise. So all of that's factored in.
Training. Uniform, some new equipment that we've gotten him to better perform his duties. It's all factored in the village money.
So I mean, whatever it is, it ain't all the dog pound. We have his deal too. He's full-time,
Part-time,
part-time,
5 hours a day.
right? Okay,
Commissioner Scott?
I'm fine with it.
Commissioner Wiltie?
I appreciate all this information. I've said it many times, we're collecting a millage from our county residents. We need to really keep a close eye on this. We are giving a substantial amount of money to a private entity that's not tied to the county, so it is our job to make sure that the money that we are giving them is used for the right reasons, and I think we need to continue just to keep a real close eye on this.
And I wanted a comparison as far as, which I know we're not there yet, it'll be interesting to see at the end of this fiscal year of how much money we've given them this year compared to previous. And compared to how many animals, like I wanna really break down, of the last 3 years. And then especially comparable to this year with the millage. Of course, there's gonna be an increase in the amount, but I wanna see, and I wanna be able to explain where and why. So there'll be more to come on that, I'm sure. And can you keep us updated, Paul? I guess I'm asking as far as the board meetings that you go to, can you keep us? I haven't heard from anybody or anything really since they came and this millage passed, and then we haven't heard a whole lot. Now, I did have interaction this past week with the animal control officer. He returned my call very quickly. He responded. I have nothing but positive things to say there. So this is definitely not directed towards him whatsoever. I just want a kind of a cost analysis and a breakdown.
So that's based on that conversation with the animal control officer. This is the first board meeting that I attended for Ray Shelter since the inception of contracts, and that was the last time I went to one, so.
Well, especially if we want this millage to continue transparency, and then we can take it back to the public with actual facts and information and questions, and so thank you for that. Employee turnover rate.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say I've not got the updated graph for you, a graph table, about halfway through it, so the next committee, the whole meeting will have it.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner comments, Commissioner Serbrook.
I have one comment.
Oh, gosh.
Okay. Our discussion last week, the meeting that Commissioner David and I went to,
Oh,
it was the Northern Michigan Children's Assessment Center. I think I referred to it by a different name. I think I said, I didn't call this, I think I called it the Children's Resource Center. So I just wanted to stand corrected on the proper name.
I haven't received an email. I know she took all of our
I haven't.
information, and Diane.
I have not either.
Diane. For some reason that's,
Rebecca,
pardon me?
Rebecca Yunker.
Oh, gosh. Ooh. For some reason that was clicking. It was, gonna send us some information for open houses.
I haven't seen anything.
I'd like to give that to the other commissioners so they can pop up there if they want to for a tour.
I think I got something late this afternoon. An email.
I did not, I've not seen anything. So Commissioner May, do you have anything? Commissioner Serbrook, or excuse me, Commissioner Scott.
I guess question for Paul or Tim or whatever. The other counties that we deal with inmates, we don't have an agreement with, do we? We're running on the county mutual aid.
Correct.
Okay. No, I don't really have anything else. I mean, nothing much really going on.
Commissioner Wiltie?
No, good meeting. I, wish everybody a safe and enjoyable holidays and God bless Ogemaw County and God bless America.
And happy birthday to Commissioner Scott. Right?
Oh, I'll be older when we come to the next meeting.
Will you be one?
I'll be the same wise guy I am now.
That wasn't my question.
Okay,
Public comment,
I don't think so.
public comment in the room.
Real quick,
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Steve Yukas. I've had a couple of interactions with Officer Forsyth with regard to the animal control, and same thing. Very responsive, took care of the business in a really quick fashion. Very pleased to work with him, and he's been a real asset to what I've been trying to do as well.
It's nice to hear. He's very professional as well.
I agree. Thank you.
I worked with him this week as well. On one of my foreclosed houses that is headed to tax sales, somebody left a dog chained to a tree.
Oh,
So I was very responsive in getting that taken care of for us.
I think that might be the same one I'm talking about,
It
yeah.
was out in Mills,
Yeah, north view or something.
Yep,
Right,
yep.
yeah.
same property.
Yes,
Bob did a really good job
yes, I did.
taking care of the things very quickly.
nice to hear. Any public comment on the phone? Oh, I was unmuted.
I got unmuted. I wanted to say happy birthday, Scott. Good meeting.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's just for you, Commissioner. Scott.
Just for me. I feel
You feel honored and privileged.
honored and privileged, yeah.
Sometimes I can figure things out.
Happy
You and
wedding
me both.
anniversary, Mom and Dad.
Oh.
52 years yesterday.
Congratulations.
Better
Any
than
public
that,
comment?
better than that 7 years ago.
Yeah, bye, Mom.
Bye.
Any public comment on the phone?
Hey, Mom, got it right off.
It was my dad had a heart attack. That sticks with her. Motion to adjourn?
Yeah. Good night.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.
You too. On their wedding anniversary, my dad went to the party garage. That's what she's talking about.
Yeah, anniversary.
Yeah. 7 years ago.
Cut your mom right off.
My mom.
Yeah.
Jenny, I have a question.
Paul, have a good
Yeah.
one, guys.
You as well. Have a great 4th, everybody.